Hi, Dr. Heather here from Wellspring Chiropractic Lifestyle Center. Today I want to tell you about how we help folks eliminate digestion concerns. Probably in the last 35 years of my practice, I've helped over 10,000 people get their health back. And folks that struggle with digestive concerns are a large part of that. Whether you're struggling with things like constipation or heartburn, GERD, reflux, or whether it's things like IBS or things like Crohn's or celiacs, any of those kinds of concerns, we've helped people with those things. But in order to know if we can help, we first have to understand what the cause is. So to start with, we do a very thorough consultation where we're going to really listen to what your insights are, to the factors that you think are involved. And then we're going to go beyond that. We're going to be detectives so that we can uncover what are all the other pieces that are contributing to where you are right now. What are the stresses and traumas from the past that have accumulated so that they are now causing a continued perpetual dysfunction in your digestion? Once we have that information, then we're going to recognize that in our culture, our modern life is stressful. And so oftentimes things have been normalized that actually are part of the accumulation of stresses. So it may be postural stresses that are the problem. It may be deadlines and chaos and disorganization that's happening. Or it may be coming from a history of bad diets or bad use of medications that have harmed the person and disrupted function. And so when we take all that information and put it together, then that's our background. Next, I want to get my hands on your spine and your body then starts to tell us some things. Now, we know that the brain is in charge of running everything. And as long as the messages get from the brain down through the spinal cord, out through the nerves to every cell in the body, including your digestive system, then you get to be healthy. But if there's anything that is interfering with that function, interfering with those flow of messages, that's when we start to see breaking down in function in the body. So I'm going to look closely at the spine because we know what the map of the nervous system is. We know where these nerves go. And so if we find that there is misalignment or subluxation in the spine that is in charge of controlling the digestive organs, then we know that is going to be a factor that we're going to need to address. You see, we need to make sure that the brain is fully in charge and in control of the body and that it's getting accurate messages from the body so that it can respond appropriately. Kind of like that idea of garbage in, garbage out. So we need the brain to be perceiving accurately what's happening in the digestive system so those signals are getting through. And then once it responds, we want accurate signals to be coming from the brain to the digestive system to control that function and adapt it readily and appropriately to whatever's going on. Once we have that assessment of the spine and the body, we now are going to be informed on what other tests or exams do we need to run so we have the full picture of what's going on. We may use a surface EMG test, and that will tell us about dyskinesis, or where there's imbalances in the muscles in the body, hypertonicity, hypotonicity, imbalances that can actually be contributing to that misalignment of those vertebrae that are controlling digestion. We also may use rolling thermography. This is a test that will allow us to evaluate dysautonomia, or where the nerves going to the organs are interfered with and could be disrupting the function of the organs, blood vessels, and glands. I like to use heart rate variability to look at how well someone is adapting to the current stresses that they're under. We know that if you're in stress mode, digestion will tend to be turned off. And so we need to make sure that you're not just stuck and defaulting to a stressed physiology that's interfering with your progress. We also want to see what kind of robustness or power does your body have to be able to manage the current stresses that you're under. So the heart rate variability tells us about that as well. I also like to look at digital posture analysis because it tells me about proprioception, which is knowing where your body is in space. If the brain doesn't have an accurate assessment of where the body is in space, it's kind of hard for it to run it properly. So that's a very key test for us as well. And then we look at digital ranges of motion sometimes, and that will help us uncover dyskinesia, or where there may be altered function in the motion in the spine, where there may be fixations and areas that are stuck and not moving properly. Brain-based assessments are also important because we sometimes need to go upstream from the spine to see if the two sides of the brain have gotten out of sync. If that's happened, then one side of the brain may be running one whole side of the body differently than the other, and that can be stressful to the system. And so once we discover that, then we'll be able to give you specific exercises to help balance that out. And of course, X-ray is the way for us to take a look inside, and there we can see whether there are any kinds of disturbances in the alignment and the biomechanics, and whether or not there's even any kind of degenerative changes that have taken place, so that we know how to slow down and stop that process. Once I have all of this information, then I'm going to take some time to study it. And when you come back on your second visit, that's when I'll be able to tell you what's going on, whether I can help, if I can help, how long is it going to take, and what's it going to cost. If it does look like I can help, then we're going to be designing a very specific program of care for you. And that program of care is going to include specific spinal adjustments, chiropractic adjustments, where we use a light touch, gentle model. And that light touch model allows the brain to find those patterns of asymmetry, the patterns of misalignment, and actually correct that on its own. So we want to see that your brain is running your body better on its own. The less I do, the more the body can learn to do for itself. So the light touch work is so effective at that. We also are going to be looking at exercises to train you on how to have a stronger spine so that you'll hold your adjustments longer. And sometimes there are even bad habits that people have where they have lost tone in different areas of the body. And so there may be some specific exercises that we'll want to do to increase that tone. When we're looking at where the subluxations are in the spine for the different types of digestive concerns, I oftentimes will find that the C1 vertebra, where the vagus nerve comes out, where the brainstem lives, is so important in many of the digestive concerns, whether it be things like heartburn, reflux, GERD, or even constipation. We see that happening. And even the conditions like IBS and celiacs, we're going to look at that upper cervical spine very closely. What I also find is the areas that include C1 to C3, as well as the lumbar spine, L1, 2, that area, and down at the sacrum. Those are the ones that are most related to constipation, and we're going to get our best results if those are clear. When we look at the conditions of IBS, celiac, those sorts of things, we're going to often find subluxation patterns again at C1, but also in the thoracic spine. T7 to 11 is classic for that. And then if we're talking about GERD and heartburn, again, C1 may be involved, but also the upper thoracic spine, more like that T4, 5 to T7 area. So again, classic patterns of subluxation that relate to different organs that are not functioning properly within the digestive system. From our brain-based assessment, again, we may be giving you some exercises to do to get the two parts of the brain back into sync. And then finally, we want to look at bad habits, how you eat, how you move, and how you think. So clearly how you eat is oftentimes, people have tried lots of different things with that. We're going to nail that one and look at what you're doing, what you need to stop doing, what you need to start doing so that you get your best results with how you're eating. And that can be something that changes over time. Some people have gone into very, very restrictive diets just trying to live around the problem. And so we're going to start from where you are and move you into a program where you're going to be eating just the right way. And then we also want to look at whether or not the organs have had breaking down in function occur and actually need to be rebuilt. And for that, we want to have good building blocks. So we're going to look at tissue-specific nutrients to see how we need to support the different organs of digestion that are linked to what you're noticing. We also want to look at whether or not we need to heal and seal the gut. If you have concerns with leaky gut, that sort of thing, then healing and sealing the gut is a protocol that we do. And we also may need to rebuild that microbiome, all the healthy flora in the gut. And so for that, we have a protocol we use where we are weeding, seeding, and feeding the gut. If stress is one of the concerns for you, we're going to teach you how to master stress with some very specific techniques. So we're going to do that evaluation so that we can train you on the best practices and how to change the bad habits into healthy habits so you get your best results. I hope you found this was useful. If you did, please share it with friends and family.